All right, so we are live streaming in a moment. So as soon as that happens, I'll get my screen back on because otherwise I can't see you guys. 5. There we go. Okay, so let me. All right, so we are live streaming in a moment. Can you guys hear all of that? As soon as that happens, I'll get my screen back on because otherwise I can't see you guys. All right. 5. There we go. Okay. I don't need to hear it. All right. All right, ladies. So in 2 minutes, we're going to be going live. You know, practice your mouth. We want to understand what you're saying. We want to make sure that you guys are comfortable. Just make everybody feel, you know, welcome. I know people are kind of coming in the room. So we want to welcome everybody who's kind of showing up. We're preparing the speakers. We have an hour full of great information that I'm excited to show you. If you want to invite anybody to watch this, you can make sure that it's somebody that you trust, and you can give them either the Zoom information that you received, or you can go on my YouTube channel at Farid Cisniega, and my YouTube channel has a little F and a little S with the little eagle on the side. That's the logo, so everybody understands that's my channel. So if you guys do want to participate in that, make sure we make it fun. There we go, 5 o'clock. We are live on our Bounce Back event. Welcome everybody who's here so far. I know it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to get everybody on board. Just mute yourselves if through this presentation you have any questions. There's a specific question for any of our speakers. Please make sure that you start typing it on the chat, or that you do like a little raise hand, and I will get back to you eventually, okay? We have interactions as we go along in our 1 hour of information. And we want to make sure that we get to everybody who actually is attending. We are happy to tell you that we have a new organization today who is joining us. We have invited the organization of the regional centers for autism and disabilities. So we're very happy to have you guys join us. We're hoping for some new speakers. So hopefully on the 13th, which is our following event, we have a volunteer from your organization to kind of share information on how to cope with this pandemic event and things that we're coping with on a daily basis. Hopefully you can volunteer and speak to us how you're dealing with it with your own children, since it takes a little bit extra step knowing that there is some type of disability that you also have to deal with. So make sure that if you have a question, you type it in the chat. And let me see, I am opening up the chat just to make sure that I'm on top of listening to all of you. So today we have 2 amazing speakers. One speaker is gonna come to kind of speak to the younger generation. We wanna make sure that your voice is also heard. As a female student at a university coping with all these changes, I'm sure you feel that you're missing out. I'm sure you're feeling a lot of frustration with maybe potentially not having a lot of information, or you know, you went from being in a beautiful campus with all those activities to not having them. So we're going to be hearing from a Generation Z. I think that's what it's called, what? The Gen Z individual.
After millennials.
Oh, is it? Okay. Okay, so you're right after millennials. So she'll be speaking in a moment. And then we'll also hear from somebody who this is not facing them. They were already homeschooling multiple children, different age brackets, and how they're coping and they're dealing with this. They're really not coping because maybe they were used to it, but they are the experts that we can go and actually ask what they're doing that is making us crazy, right? You know that I have a little one at home, so I was used to handing her off in school and me getting to work, right? Day to day. So for at least 6 hours, 5, 6 hours, she was not my responsibility. And now those 5 and 6 hours have become 24 hours. So that's been a major impact. And that is why we have invited Tia to speak to us today and kind of give us some pointers. So with that said, it is 5:03. We will start at 5:05. We are live on YouTube. Again, if you want to invite anybody to the YouTube channel, then that is at Farid Cisniega YouTube channel. So I am going to prepare while all of you guys get welcome. For the ones that I see on video, welcome. I'm so happy to see you. We have a few new people joining us today, which makes me so happy. And of course, we get new ones. Every 2 weeks, we have these events. We want different professional women or different women of all aspects of life talking about what's going on right now, how to cope with it, and how to bounce back, right? That's the name of the event. The event is Bounce Back. So we're excited for that, and we can't wait to show you what's in store for us. So I am going to, one more minute, and Miss Jessica comes with us. I'm going to start the introduction real quick. She is a second-year political science major in the University of Santa Barbara. Her goal and dream is to become an attorney eventually, right? She's probably our future president of the United States if you know she does it correctly, with a lot of dedication, right? That you can accomplish anything. But she too is dealing with the same thing most of us are dealing with. And we want to make sure that her voice is heard and that she shares where this is going. So thank you so much, Jessica, for accepting our invitation to be one of our keynote speakers today. And take it away. Tell us who you are and what's going on right now with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So basically everything's online. Anything we were ever used to and getting comfortable with completely changed. We have these resources. We have all of our lectures online with Zoom, which is interesting. And some professors make it mandatory, which is difficult for some students because not everyone's going to have the same schedule. Not everyone at the University of Santa Barbara are all on California time. So I hear of other women and girls in my position who are having difficulty, adapting to everything being online. And I mean, it's a learning process. If you have the dedication and the motivation above all to find a way and maneuver through and learning everything that's online, then it's completely possible. I will say the one thing that I've struggled with the most is you have to have a whole nother level of motivation, because when you're at school, you have this busy schedule every day. You have to attend classes, lectures that are in person, and you just have things to do. So you get up in the morning, you get ready, and you prepare, and you go on with that schedule that you have planned. But when you're at home and you don't have that, it's more of a burden to find the motivation to actually get up and feel that energy to have your day started and get everything done and accomplish everything that you want in that day. And I mean, I've had those days where I'm like, oh, I really want to get this done, but sometimes I'm just exhausted from every other day because I work as well right now. So that on top of school, there's those days where I just really don't want to. But then again, you have to realize the end goal, and if you want to succeed, you have to put in your best foot forward in school. So that's just what I've been trying to live by right now. And I mean, it's working so far. It's been a process to adapt to everything online, but with enough confidence in yourself and just the ambition to want to succeed, then I mean, it's possible. Anyone can do it.
Great. Well, I know that you must be going through a tough time because you yourself are far away from your school. So I'm sure that all of your friends that you have in school right now kind of are also in their hometown. So
Yes.
it's not like the elementary schools, right? Where the kids are close to home. They can kind of feel like a sense of familiarity, right, with the
Community.
area. So yeah. So
Mhm.
how are you dealing with being so free, being away from home, right? Because the reason why you went to far away school is to be away from home, and now being forced to come back home. And how are you dealing with the aspect of entertainment being inside?
Um, honestly, being entertained when you have the responsibilities of school, it's really hard to like um feel like, oh, I need like some other aspect of entertainment, because when you do let's say go on YouTube and watch videos of like YouTubers that you like, or if you I don't know, spend time FaceTiming your friend and just stuff like that to entertain yourself, you kind of feel like you're taking away and you feel guilty to taking away from your school time. Um, but I've honestly learned when you're in, well, at least in my university, one of the biggest things that's stress is mental health. Mental health is a huge thing, and a lot of people forget that that's important to maintain while you're in school, because it can seem like your number one priority is going to be school and nothing else matters. But honestly, you're not going to put your best foot forward in school if you yourself are not okay. So even though we are at home and we do have that free time now more than ever to practice self-care, I think that is important to implement. Find just some sort of entertainment right now. Obviously everything virtual like this can be something that a lot of um, women, college students can be a part of, like groups like this to find another source of entertainment and distraction during like these stressful times. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. And every 2 weeks. So we have these events every 2 weeks for all the new people here. I want to make sure that I address all of you and kind of give you some cleanup rules, I would say. We want this to become a sense of help for you. Nobody is here to sell anything. Nobody's here to do anything but help each other. We are a group of women, a group of professionals who put this Zoom webinar together because we already do it twice a year throughout every district. So every county that we hit live, now we have to do it in this way, right? So we've had to cancel a lot of the events, the live events, where the professional women come and we talk, and everybody has a little expertise. Well, we want our network to expand, but not so much of a network perspective, but more of how can we help the other women that are not in the network, that maybe are struggling, that maybe have issues at home. How can we still reach out to them without having to be in that live event that you were used to attending? So if we little by little start spreading this information, and we know every 2 weeks on a Wednesday at 5 p.m., this will be here available. The different types of subjects that we touch are extremely important. We've had mental health, we've had doctors, health, like food, nutrition, fitness, finances, everything. So you are right. Hopefully in 2 weeks we have another young individual sharing information with us, because we want to hear from you too. Your voice counts for our network. So, all right. Well, one last question that I am reading. So again, we're live in a few platforms right now. So I kind of get questions from a lot of people, including we get questions online. Okay. I'm sorry, on my text messages from people that knew what the subjects are. So one of the questions that they have is Jessica, they want to know how you're dealing with your dating. I don't know why they're asking this question, but how are you dealing with dating? One of our viewers wants to know, how are you handling that?
That's a funny question. A lot of people are finding it like impossible to date during this time, which I don't think so. I think it's even more of it shows a lot more of a character in someone when they're able to talk to you, you know, text or if FaceTime if you're comfortable with that. If like if the person is showing that much interest in you to keep wanting to talk to you virtually, that shows that they actually care and they actually like you versus, you know, like also dates are nerve-wracking, so you don't have to deal with that for a while because of quarantine. So um
That's good advice.
yeah. So I mean I think virtually dating is cool. Like you get to experience um I guess kind of if the person you're talking to cares enough to keep the conversation going, and it just shows a lot more in someone if that's the case versus, you know, having to
Yes, if they're willing to wait it out, right? If they're willing to wait for you on a live date. Well, good, 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 good. And then the last question I have is what would be okay, what would be the best way to be concentrated to do your homework while you know you're home? Do you
oh
still, I guess the question, if I am understanding it correctly, is you have to be accountable, so, or daily, or do you have to be accountable once a week, or how are your teachers expecting you to complete and fulfill your tasks or your responsibilities?
um okay, so responsibilities for one, it's not once a week, it's not twice a week, it's every day. It's more than before because these professors think, which I mean, I don't blame them. I guess I don't know. I can't really be mad at them because they're trying to, you know, make it work for them as well and having it work for us students. But they're definitely giving us a lot of work, more than I've ever been used to be honest. So I dedicate almost every day to school. I maybe have one day where I'm like, okay, like I even though I know I have stuff to do, I'm just like, I'm just gonna take today off. My brain can't take it, especially since I'm still working. So I can't. So to actually find the motivation to stay concentrated um, while I'm home, I have to make an effort to tell my family that this I'm working on a reading right now. I'm working on an essay, a quiz. Can you guys not be so loud? Just ask them nicely in the nicest way possible. Because you honestly have to have that study space available in order to put that concentration into school. And if you don't have that in your household, then it's really up to your family to help accommodate to your needs as much as possible. So you just have to have an open communication with them and just let them know that, you know, these are the days, these are the times that I just really need a little bit of just a little bit of quiet time. They don't have to be completely silent. So that's what I've been doing to find time to concentrate and to stay concentrated. I can't have like super loud noise because even headphones won't block that. So that's
Great,
just
that's some great advice. So for all you ladies who have college students, who have, high school students still, who have students in the university, make sure that we're giving them their time, to concentrate. And it is so hard. I have, we'll have a therapist in the next couple of events that we're going to have, but I speak to him often, and one of the things he says is you still have to put rules and boundaries. Even though you're home, you got to block out time to study, you got to block out time to work, whether you're a student, if you're a mom, especially if you're a single parent running a household on by yourself, you got to make sure that you have those blocks of times where people are respecting it. One of his advice is, put quiet time on the door. If you have, if you can go into a room and have your quiet time, or and then make it fun. If you are a mom and you're doing it with your children, then put children's time, that kind of thing. But it is left to our own responsibility to fulfill our daily activities. So thank you so much, Jessica. Stay tuned. If I get any more questions from the audience for you, then I'll bring you back on. So ladies, I want to also remind you that right now, by the show of hands, if you can raise your hand, you know where to raise the little hand, right? In your chat, you have a little, I believe, a little hand that you raise. Show me, somebody just do me a favor and show me a hand so I know it's working. Kind of raise your hand, somebody. All right, so it may not work. Oh, okay, there. Okay, I see somebody. I see somebody with their hand raised. Okay, so get familiar with raising your hand. Get familiar with the chat. On the bottom where you see your screen, on the bottom there's a chat box. Make sure that we want to make sure that we address your questions. The next individual that I'm going to introduce is dear to my heart. I've been asking her and kind of telling her, how are you coping with this? If I'm going nuts with one child, how are you coping with all this nonsense that is going on, right? This is a person who I have seen homeschool her children for as long as I've known her. She's been homeschooling. So this is nothing new to her. Every time one of us discuss with her how crazy we're going, she turns around and goes, piece of cake. I'm already used to this. So I want to bring her now. If you can unmute yourself, Tia. Her name is Tia, and she has children of all ages. And I'm going to let her tell you who she is and how she is involved in this bounce back event. So take it away, Tia.
Okay, thank you, Fareed. Thank you for having me. Hello, ladies. My name is Celestia, but Fareed calls me Tia because it's a lot easier for her to say. And yeah, I've been a stay-at-home mom since I've had my first child. He's 14 now, so I've been a stay-at-home mom for 14 years. And I have 6 children total. My oldest is 14. I have 12-year-old twins, a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and 2 dogs, and a husband. So maybe I have like 9 kids total if I add the dogs and the husband too. But yeah, so being a stay-at-home mom is both rewarding and it can be challenging at the same time. It's a lot to deal with. Not are you just, you're a teacher, you're a boo-boo kisser when they had them sore, you're a cook, you're a housekeeper, you wear many different hats all at the same time. And for me, learning to cope, when I had my 14-year-old, I was only 18 years old. So I had to learn from a young age how to deal with all of that by myself and things like that. So along the years, I've learned how to tweak different things, how to make this work, what works and what doesn't work. And I wouldn't necessarily call myself a professional at it or an expert at it, but I've definitely made it to where it's manageable and it's something that I can definitely cope with. So during the time of the pandemic going on, we kind of really weren't affected. Basically, the only things that kind of really changed for us was just keeping the kids in the house. We do weekly hikes on Sundays, and that's something that we are still able to do as long as we don't go to really populated areas. So the children can still get out and they're not just, just building up all this energy in the house and just going crazy, driving you crazy. It still gets a chance to get out the house and whatnot as well. And then you can also incorporate learning into that as well. Like for instance, science or PE. You can look at the formation of the clouds. You can mess with the soil and dig up the bugs and learn the different types of plants and grass. For PE, it's obviously exercise for the hiking. You can do all sorts of different things. We even buried a time capsule recently that we're going to actually leave for 10 years and then have the kids dig it back up to see if anybody found it or anything like that. So we just do a lot of interacting with the kids, do a lot of fun, different activities just to keep them engaged, keep their minds working. Sometimes we even do evening or night hikes where we just let the moon guide us or the stars, and we'll walk them out one way and say, okay, now get us back to the beginning. So that's, again, teaching them navigation and things like that. And you can incorporate learning into almost anything nowadays. It's also been a few times that the power went out during the pandemic and the kids were like, no tablets, no computers, no nothing. What do we do? And at that point, you just, again, make it fun. You can build little forts in your house and play hide and seek. I know over the holiday for Easter, we were talking about what to do with the kids for Easter eggs and stuff like that. We had an Easter egg hunt inside the house and just hid the eggs all over and things like that. So it's all about just being creative and finding different things to do, even as far as just cooking dinner, incorporating the kids into getting something out of the fridge for me, or setting the table, or pouring the water for everybody or something like that. As long as you keep your kids busy and engaged, I really haven't had much of a problem with them driving me nuts. The pros and cons for being a stay-at-home mom, as far as that's concerned, for me, I would say the pro is that I've kind of had the best of both worlds. So I've been a stay-at-home mom with my husband in the military, where I've done it all on my own pretty much while he was deployed. And I've also been a stay-at-home mom while he's here. And it's not just the kids that can drive you crazy. Sometimes it's the husband too. So yeah, it's learning about coping with things like that as well. The pros now is that you really don't miss anything with your kids. You don't miss when they first learn how to walk, or when they first learn their first words, or when they're first learning how to read, or when they have to go to karate or ballet practice or gymnastics. You're there for everything. I do know that when my husband was in the military, he missed birthdays, he missed births. He wasn't there for the twins' births. You miss out on so much. And when he was actually deployed, when he came back, he was deployed when the twins were babies. And when he came back, they didn't recognize him. So those are things that can be really taxing on childhood, and then on his mental capacity as well. Your children not being able to have that bond with you because you're just not there. And then the cons of probably being a stay-at-home mom is that there's no break. They say that being a stay-at-home mom is the most underpaid job you can ever have, because it's no off button. Even at the time that you go sleep, they still wake up in the middle of the night. Sometimes they still have accidents where they wet the bed. I mean, sometimes you have to wake up and check on them because you're paranoid that something might happen. They might stop breathing in their sleep or something. So being a mom never stops. You never stop doing anything. I mean, and at that point, sometimes I'll just be like, hey, honey, I'm going to the store. Oh, you want to take so-and-so with you? No, I'm good. I'll go alone. So at that point, that's when you can kind of have your me time, your mom time, where you're just alone, and you can kind of not have to deal with the kids being around, or you're trying to grocery shop and somebody's pulling this off the shelf, somebody's flying the cart down the aisle, and everything's just chaotic. Those are different things that you can do. My husband will even take the kids out for a drive sometimes, go for ice cream with them or whatever, and just be like, well, babe, just stay home, relax, and I'll just take the longest shower ever. And it's the little things that make all the difference. Like, you wouldn't think that a shower would be something that's like, thank you so much, that was like a $500 Valentine's Day present, but it is. When you have your kids around you all the time, it's the littlest things that can really, really make the biggest difference. Another thing that's really, really helped me. So in the beginning, I was a really structured person, and I always tried to have a schedule, be organized and plan. I had a planner. I used to write everything out. It drove me nuts because with 6 kids, you can't have a schedule. I mean, if you have somebody for this practice or somebody for that practice, and then you're on the way to the practice, but this person throws up in the car, you're going to be late. And then somebody knocks off early from school, or somebody has a fight, or this, and that, or you never know. Anything can happen. Schedules do not work with multiple kids or when you stay at home. It does not work for me. I've tried it numerous ways, and it actually just makes it more chaotic because you're trying to do everything you can to stick to the schedule. And when it doesn't work, it frustrates you more. So I'm more of a go with the flow kind of person. And that's kind of worked for me. I mean, when I do homeschool the children, it's usually 4 to 5 hours a day. And they have about 5, 6 subjects. Sometimes you can do extracurricular things like that. And with homeschooling, you can also, you can go through vendors, which they allow you to pick like another extracurricular activity, whether it be like guitar or piano, baseball, or things like that. And you can pick those different vendors that you want to go through so that the children can do something other than just straight schoolwork. And having those different subjects, I mean, it's really simple versus how they're in regular public school for 8 hours or all day and things like that. I do know it hasn't been straight stay at home. Well, I have been a stay-at-home mom, but they've been in public school before as well. So I've done both. And when I've had my children in public school, I did notice that their learning actually fell backwards. And then seeing the schoolwork that they came home with, my son was about 6 when we had put him in public school, and he did not know how to write his own name. And when he came home with the paperwork of his name, it was 1, spelled wrong, and 2, it was all capitalized. It just wasn't any structure for me. And that falls back to where in a school setting, it's a 30 student to 1 teacher ratio, and the teacher doesn't have the time to input the love and the learning and the care that each individual child needs, because it's so many children in one setting. One teacher just can't do all of that. So that's a huge benefit that it's been for homeschooling for me as well, is the fact that I'm able to give them the undivided attention that they need in order to make sure that their education is top notch, and to make sure that they're progressing and that they're advancing in their learning as well. And not falling backwards. I would notice that in public school, my children will come home with homework and they hadn't learned anything of the homework that day. So now they're in public school with a teacher, but when they come home, I'm gonna be a teacher again because they don't know what they're bringing home. And for me, I couldn't understand the logic of that, but that's literally facing what you have to deal with nowadays. Public school is not like it was when I was in school. You had teachers staying with you after school and making sure that everything was getting done right and things like that. But with the way that the decades have gone, it's not like that anymore.
One of the questions that I'm receiving here, Celestia.
You got it.
I finally said it right. Is how are you coping with the different age brackets? Is there a curriculum that you teach separately, or do you teach the older ones first, or are you just one of those all 6 go and then you're the one that is shifting your mind?
So that's a really good question, because again, that was a learning curve. That was something that I had to figure out what was the best way to do that. So with the older 3, because we kind of separate them into a group of 3, the older ones are only 2 years apart, and then the younger ones are kind of just a year to maybe 3 years apart. So we keep the younger ones separate from the older ones. With the younger ones in homeschooling, I don't have my 4-year-old in homeschool, but because she sees the 6 and the 7-year-old doing stuff, she wants to be engaged as well. So I have had to get her flashcards. I went to the dollar store and got her flashcards with the shapes and the numbers and the colors. And I've also gotten her a coloring book. And while the 6 and the 7-year-old are being taught by me, I would keep her occupied and say, okay, color this for me, or do that for me, or whatever. Keep her busy on the side while I'm dealing with the other 2. The older 3, I have curriculums because in California, you can do homeschooling on your own if you want. But it's a lot easier when you go through an accredited program and they kind of give you the entire curriculum yourself and you kind of just follow their guidelines. It's kind of more like you still control everything, but at least you're legalized, because in California, if you don't have the correct curriculum, they can cite you for it and they'll make your child repeat a grade, and it's just chaotic after that. So it's best to make sure that if you do want to do it on your own, you have to actually have I believe it's some type of a certificate in order to teach on your own if you don't go through an accredited program. If you go through an accredited program, you don't need all of that, because now they're giving you the curriculum that's for this particular state. So that's what I did. I have had my children in multiple different homeschools, because it is different things that you can do. You can do charter schools where your child can be home 3 days out of the week and then go to school, charter school, 2 days out of the week. So they get both. They get interaction and socialization with other kids and things like that. You can do it where you're just at home, where it's no type of interaction with teachers or anything like that. My homeschool is called Elite Academic Academy, and it's actually pretty strict. They do weekly Zoom meetings. We meet with the teacher on Zoom, and we have to give work samples of each subject weekly. And they also like to speak to the children, and they test the children verbally, assess them over the phone or the computer, and ask them questions like, oh, your mom showed me this work sample. So you're learning about fractions this week. Can you tell me what this would be and what that would be? Different things like that. And that's basically them making sure that, you know, the parent is doing their job and they're actually learning and comprehending things like that. I mind it and I don't mind it to a certain extent. I understand that they're doing it because they want to make sure that the children are grasping it. But for me, it's a little bit too much interaction, because it doesn't feel like homeschooling. It feels like they're guiding me more than I'm guiding and asking them for assistance a little bit. And then I had them in a previous school before that where it was once a month and I would just submit the schoolwork. So different schools do different things. My older three are just on a virtual program. They don't do any paperwork at all. So they don't have workbooks, they don't have textbooks, they don't have anything like that. And then also, if you go through an accredited program for homeschooling, you can get free computers. They give you computers, or they'll give you tablets or anything like that. So all three of my older children have electronics where they can each go on the computer and submit their schoolwork. So to basically, you know, in a roundabout way answer the question is, my older three are on a virtual program and the younger two are on like textbooks and reading, and they have a phonics program and things like that. It's more hands-on. I have building blocks for them. I have a lot more touchable, tangible things for them, because at that age, that's what they need. They can't really do a virtual program because it's their attention span would not be that great for that.
Okay, and we have one of our guests raising their hand that I'm going to unmute. Tracy, if you are listening, I'm going to unmute you. If you have a question, please let us know.
I do not. That was when you were asking for people to raise their hands.
Okay, awesome.
It just stayed up there.
Okay, I'm going to lower your hand.
My apologies.
No problem. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me see. I do have a question. So Tia, or anybody for that matter, some of the parents I know from the regional center that are joining us today. So I have two children. I have one child that has a disability, and I have a normal child that is normally crazy in its own self. So when you have two children like that with completely different needs and personalities, how is one supposed to, you know, now you are forced to be the teacher, now you're forced to be the psychologist, now you're forced to be the rule enforcer, now you're, how does one, or what can you say, if you can just briefly give me some advice on how does a person with a child with disabilities versus a child that is on a regular stream program, how can we cater to both and not go crazy ourselves? Yeah.
That's a good question too. In my opinion, I would basically say definitely communication. I talk to my kids a lot, and even the younger one, with Kylie being so young, you kind of assume that, you know, hey, I'm the mom, I kind of have to direct everything, but kids are verbal and they'll tell you what they want. My daughter's 4, and, you know, at the end of the day, you can talk to them and be like, hey, you know, what kind of things do you like to do? What would you like to do this week or this day? Or what kind of things interest you? And they'll literally tell you what they want to do. I mean, you can have a mom day with her indoors and do mani-pedis, where you guys paint your nails together and do hair together, and let her do your hair and let her do your makeup and things like that. I've done that with my daughter, and it means the world to her. She's going around like, Daddy, look at me, I'm cute. It's the funniest thing. And then with a child with a disability, I mean, again, it's the same thing. If they can communicate with you, anything that has to do with motor skills or keeping the brain just working, keeping the brain functioning, anything like that, would be fun. I mean, we've gotten board games, we've gotten, you know, Monopoly, Uno, because even at the end of the day, Monopoly has cash. So children might not know that they're learning, but they are.
Okay. And what are the things that you think you can do for you? Okay, so now it's the end of the night. When do you have Tia time?
Tia time is almost non-existent. You kind of have to just find wiggle room. I mean, sometimes it's even, my daughter will just tuck her out in the middle of the day sometimes, and she'll just go sleep in the middle of the day. And then sometimes she's up to 3 o'clock in the morning. She does not really have a schedule. She kind of just runs the house sometimes. And then sometimes it's more structured, where I'm like, you're going to bed by 9 because you've been driving me crazy all day. Again, like I said, I don't really have a schedule. So I kind of just go with the flow. When I do kind of have me time, I'll literally kind of take a whole 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes, and literally say, hey, you know what? I'm going to my room. I'll give them something to do, whether it be chores, whether it be an actual activity for them to do that I know will keep them busy. I'll even put a movie on. I know that movies are an hour, 40 minutes, 2 hours or something like that. And while they're watching the movie, I'll go in, go take a shower, go do my hair, go paint my nails, go lay in my bed and watch YouTube or binge watch a few TV shows on Netflix or something. I mean, anything to just keep the sanity as a mom. Like I said, the simple things and the small things mean all the difference. So just squeezing that time in whenever you can is important. I mean, it might not seem like it, but it is, because if you keep having a problem that you avoid and that you avoid and avoid and avoid, at one point, when something small happens, you're going to blow up and just explode because you weren't able to deal with that problem all this time. So even if it was just 15 minutes, remembering the little things and just engaging in small little things at a time can all add up and make all the biggest difference.
Awesome. And they're piggyback on your answer. I do have a guest that sent us, you know, a quote, and she's saying, remembering to engage in activities that both of your children like, and also dedicate time to one and then the other, and putting in the back burner what I can, right, from their behavior, and earn my piggy bank bucks. That's awesome. I love that. That's a great idea. Thank you so much, Maria, for your input. You are so right. And I want to thank you so much, Tia, for your time. I know that with 6 kids and you have to put them away for an hour. I don't know what you did. Did you lock them up or lock the key?
I padlocked them all in one room.
So thank you so much. Stay tuned in case there's other questions or comments that come about. And you know, we're close to ending today's event, but what I wanted to share with you today is more of, you know, do we parents have the capability of thinking of any other issues while we're dealing with our own issues? You know, for the many of you that already know who I am, I have a company, I work for, I'm an advocate for a couple of you know, organizations that I go and volunteer for. So I'm completely always doing things to give back to the community. I have my women organization, you know, also nonprofit organization where we help women develop and come out of domestic violence or any situation of adversity in their life. I'm an advocate for the regional centers for autism and disabilities for your children. So, and now I'm expected to be a cook. I'm expected to be a teacher. I'm expected to be what? Like I'm just waiting every day. I wait for a new email, a new phone call telling me what else I'm expected to do in a day. So obviously from being here, I've been stretched to the max, you know, for the width of this screen that you're looking at me. So this helps tremendously myself, even though I'm the host of this event. It completely helps me just to listen to what everybody else is doing. And it helps me tremendously because you can't really choose to be a business owner or continuing your efforts of volunteering or be a parent, because you know where your heart lies and you know what you're going to choose first. So thank you so much for that advice. I wrote down a couple notes from what you're doing with your kids that I'm not doing right now. My subject today is about that, coping with that mentality as a woman. And it's a very brief topic, and I want to get your opinion on this. I've been hearing that there is a lot of women that are going through depression. They're going through the phase of what do I want to say? The phase of no return. They're in that dark tunnel, right? So because they're in that dark tunnel, they're almost embarrassed to ask for help. They're almost embarrassed to call somebody or wake up in the middle of the night and not have anybody to go to. If you have a husband, hopefully your husband is a good one. Hopefully he's one that will listen to you and not get annoyed himself. But how about for those women that have the husbands and the husbands are dealing with their own issues? Maybe they're not making any income. Maybe, you know, they are working and then one parent is only the one taking care of at home. So for those of you that are going through that, make sure that you know that this group right here is a group of people that can actually help you. I think most of us, and the two people that are my co-hosts for this today and in the previous, like Roxana, like Viviana, you know, we have many people, many of the professionals that have come out here and spoke to us before. They're always willing to get a phone call, an email, a text message, an anonymous text or call in our own social media or whatever. And we are here, we are geared to give you a helping hand. Maybe we can't solve your problems, but just the fact that you can speak about it, release what you have in your heart, and have some idea on how somebody else will react to that is phenomenal. So call it a peer group, call it a woman empowerment group, call it a mom's club, whatever you want to call. This is the time, whether you're somebody like Jessica who's in a university. I am sure, Jessica, that you have heard of women in your school that are going crazy and can't cope with this, where maybe your ability to withstand and this change, right? Because not a lot of people would withstand change. So with that said, if anybody has some good advice on how to embrace each other, how to help each other, but For that, I want to let you know, if you are one of those that follows me on Facebook at Farid Cisniega, not the one with the hat, but the one with the suit. If you follow me there, I put a lot of victim hotlines. I put a lot of resources there for you guys to actually help each other, okay? And they may not be something from my business or my services that I offer. You know, I'm a financial educator. I am a high fee certified educator for the Heartland Institute, and my agency just helps businesses and helps nonprofit organizations kind of line up and become better for our community. That's the hope. So if you follow me, you're going to be able to not only receive, but also give. We want you to give back what you know. Don't keep it to yourself. If you see a good post, share it with our group. There's a woman empowerment group that is in there. Make sure that you request to join that one. It's so good to share information. You know, we have our Facebooks and our social media platforms that show our lives and what we eat and where we travel and all that stuff. We love seeing that, but this one's more of a resource page. And, you know, we meet here every 2 weeks on a Wednesday. So our next event, I believe, is the 13th, if I'm not mistaken, if anybody can check that for me. It is the 13th. And we're going to have somebody from the regional center as well as somebody from the mental health. We're going to have a therapist speak to us that day. Now we are preparing for what? We've been talking about it, guys, right? All of you who have been joining this talk, the bounce back, right? We're kind of exiting an era of uncertainty. And even though we're taking this phase 1 thing and phase 2 and phase 3, how are we going to come back to our new lives? So how many of you, by either the show of hands or a comment, how many of you think your life will be the same after we're allowed to get back out there? Do any of you think your life is going to be the same? Okay, no problem. Nobody is talking. So I love it when you have no questions, but I love it even more when you have a lot of questions. Okay, so this is the $1 million question for me. Okay, how do you think it's going to be different? Well, the way I think it's going to be different is if for all of you, fast forward it 2 more weeks. So we would have been inside for approximately what, 2 months? I would say 7 weeks, 8 weeks. So the question will be, what did you do to enhance what you're already doing or what you were already doing? What have you changed? What have you evolved into, right? One of the things that we want to make sure is that everybody who is right now having to stay inside home, I hope that you are trying to find something that you're changing. It doesn't matter whether it is writing a book, writing a story, maybe creating a newsletter, or writing a diary, right? Something personal, something for you and your family in the future that you can actually talk about in the future. Because remember, the one thing you will not remember a year from now, 2 years from now, or 10 years from now is what you are living right now, moment by moment by moment. So if you start journaling things, if you start writing things, or if you don't know how to write and you don't know how to type, then record things, right? On your phone, send them to an email that you know you're never going to delete. That way you have that recording there in the memory. And talk about your daily feelings. That for me has definitely helped me, is the one advice I can give you. I can tell you that one of the things that has helped me not go crazy at this moment is the fact that every day I can think about what is it that I'm going to evolve to? What has this taught me? And for me, it has definitely taught me that we cannot be forced to slow down. We have to slow down ourselves. We have to put priorities of life, whether this has gotten you closer to your faith, whether this has gotten you closer to your family, closer to doing things that you have not done before because you've been running around like the Energizer Bunny, right? I'm guilty of that. I'm total Energizer Bunny. Whatever it is that you can embrace and change today will be that new person. There will be many, many businesses that close down. Why? Because they weren't prepared for something like this. They weren't prepared to withstand a crisis situation. So that alone, we will be forced to think about the potential of another crisis situation in the future. Whether you have been touched personally by somebody being sick, or whether you're one of those that says, I know a million people and I don't know anybody that got sick. Thank God for that. Thank the Lord for that. I rather think that this is all fake than prove it to me because my mother is in the hospital, right? So with that said, we are going to close this today by giving you a great message of if love is what you need to discover, like Jessica told us earlier, if there's a person that you're dating and he's still willing to date you, even though you're not giving him any affection and physical affection, then that's a person that's worth keeping as a friend. If at this time of chaos, there's a long lost friend that maybe you had not talked to in years or not often, and they're the ones that are checking up on you and making sure that you're okay, then it's just life telling you who your true friends are. And when it comes to business, if you weren't so good with your money and now you're struggling to put food on the table, or you had to ask for things because you can't pay your rent or your mortgage or your bills, then what you need to change is the fact that you need to get better with your money, right? So we all have something to find that we can get better at. I can say honestly, the one thing I needed to get better at that this has showed me is be a parent, be a mom. I have two amazing children, and one of them gives me one kind of challenge, and the second one gives me another type of challenge. By the way, I have 4 children and a grandson, but the two that have changed my way of thinking and where my life is going next is definitely my son with a disability, and it's definitely my little girl with all the energy in the world. She's like 10 Energizer bunnies in one. And this type of event I'm greedy because I love it, because it helps me, and I hope it's helped you. So this was helpful at all, make sure that you participate in our poll. We make sure that if you have any advice on what to cover in the next time that we're here, please, please, please submit. We are open for suggestions. We're always looking for new speakers. You don't have to be a business owner or a professional. You could just be somebody with a good story and good advice. Make sure that you visit me, expertagents619.com. There's a resource page there. Fill out that form and get some of the resources straight to your inbox in your email. If not, follow me on Facebook, Farid Cisniega. Tia, your friends on Facebook, right? With me, and Jessica, your face on Facebook. So if anybody goes to Facebook, Instagram, I am plastered all over social media, so it will not be hard to find me. And if there's anything we can help you with, we are here for you. We want to make sure that you use us. You use us for leverage and you use us as your, how do you say that word? My Mexican side is thinking right now. Support. A support group. We are your support group. And thank you so much for everybody from the regional center that joined today. We want one of you moms to please volunteer for our next, for May 13. We're looking for somebody with a child or with, maybe you're a teacher of disabled children, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear how you're coping and what you're doing to kind of withstand all this chaos. But until then, I want to thank you for being here. And don't forget, you guys, May 13, tune back again, get the new Zoom meeting. And thank you all for being here. Have a good evening. Go enjoy your families. Have a great dinner.